Hello, Fortnite fam. Welcome to the pre-show. If you guys are watching this, this is on Thursday, one day before the FNCS Finals, which are live tomorrow. You guys know me. I'm Zeke. We're hanging out with Sundown.
What's up, everyone?
MonsterDFace.
Hey, y'all.
And ShyoWager.
Yo, yo.
All right, if you guys watched earlier on the week, we actually dropped a predictions piece where in like 30 seconds or less, we made some bold predictions from every region. Now, we're going to dive in and talk about those predictions, expand upon them more, and defend our cases. So we'll start with Middle East. Sundown, you made that prediction.
Yeah, so Middle East kind of talked about it. My prediction wasn't the #1 team going into it. Everyone knows that Feasel and Klops have won 4 of the 5 weeks, but they've alternated in terms of who they played with. They had Kappa for the first 2 weeks and then Flosaw in weeks 3 and 5. And that is why I'm kind of going against the grain here and not picking them. Everyone else did select them as the favorites, but mine going in, I'm keeping an eye on Prime, Flame, and Hunter, the trio who is able to win in week 4, coming out of Vietnam and the Indonesia area is where they play from, but playing on the Middle East server, and they're able to have a lot of pressure, and I think they'll do slightly better when you're in kind of that cold in that top lineup and working into the grand finals. I think they have a little more teamwork and a little more upside in order to break through and take the top spot.
You see, I personally think with Feasel and Klops, they were always kind of playing catch-up with Flosaw when he was kind of on the front of that trio. With Hero Kappa, it's more natural. These guys have better calls, big macro plays early and late game. I think they fit a lot better than Flosaw, actually, or Hero fits a lot better than Flosaw. And I think they actually have more of an edge playing with their old teammate than they do the new addition that they had before.
So I don't disagree that I think Kappa fits their playstyle slightly better than Flosaw did, and I think it might end up paying off. I can't pencil them in as a favorite when you've waffled back and forth and you're having to make a decision like right at the end. To me, that doesn't scream confidence going forward, and I think that's something you need going in the finals. Not to say, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they won, but I can't put them in first.
Yeah, it doesn't 100% doesn't scream confidence, but it could scream knowledge because they've learned so much playing with different people. But yeah, you're absolutely right. We have to see how it pans out when you do flop partners left and right.
All right, now let's talk about OCE. Monster, you made predictions from this region.
Yeah, I definitely brought up Geese, Slay, and Skyla, consistent veterans on the scene. They've been around for a while. We've been watching them kind of play out even throughout the World Cup kind of series, right? They've been consistent. Now, have they been able to come out on top? Sometimes they do. Sometimes they are able to overthrow and overcome your favorites like the X2 twins or Parpy and his team, Jalen and Zora. But here in this trio division, now that Parpy, Zora, and Jalen are not on the OCE region, I really do feel like this swings so much potential more so towards what was left in the OCE region because it's such a small region. It's a small competitive region. And the top, the cream of the crop, are literally that good. So with much less talent, I guess, to kind of combat against in the open qualifiers, but now brought into a private, kind of tournament format. I think Geese, Slaya, and Skylar are definitely a team to look out for, if not the X2 twins.
So I'm glad that you at least gave a little bit of shout out there for kind of those guys. But that being said, not mentioning Link, Gubaz, and Worthy when they won 2 of the weeks and had such a positive trend upwards, and the fact that they were able to effectively bury the rest of the region. Like, they had a number of times where they were 20 and 30 plus on everyone else, just largely based off of their positional and rifling skills. The one thing though, it has to be Volks and the X2 twins and everybody else playing catch up. They won 3 of the 5 weeks, and the one thing for them in particular, while we question how some of these teams transition into what might be the grand finals and into the heats, I think Jesse, Jordan, and Volks get better. And I think they're one of the few teams that definitively get better, because when you're in there against better and consistent players, you know what's going on. These guys have run that scene for so long that they know all of these other trios. They play against the same group all the time. They have that knowledge base, and they're able to enact on that much more efficiently than everyone else. And I think that's going to give them such a distinct advantage.
Some good thoughts, Let's move on to Asia. Sundown, you had some predictions as well.
Yeah, so I went with one of the South Korean trios, the WGS guys of Jag, QOO, and Horde. They played a little bit over in Europe during the World Cup Open qualifiers, trying to do their best in there. Came close a number of times, both with a number of solo performances and a duo performance that was there. And they were able to top the charts in, I think it was week 3. It might have been week 2. I'll need to go back and double check that. But they had some ridiculous plays, and they're in the top 5 in terms of consistency as well. With that being said, Asia has been one of the regions where there isn't a singular team who is up top. We've seen 2 different Japanese to claim the crown, 3 different South Korean teams up there. The Chinese team was in second place just in week 5. So anybody can really take that crown. And I think what's going to come down to it is who's able to build momentum into the heats and then transfer it over into the finals.
Momentum's a big aspect, 100%. Speed as well is a big part of momentum, and I think Fox's trio is the fastest in getting points up and moving around in the region. They're just everything's so clean mechanical wise, and now the game sense is catching up, and you see that in placements. I think they're going to be on top by the end of all this.
All right, let's talk about Europe. ShyoWager, we know MMB. You know, everyone knows how good MMB is. Mongrel, Mitro, and Benji. Let's talk about it.
I mean, they have literally only placed first and second. I get that. But behind them, just in match, maybe not the leaderboards, has always been Stompy, Chinken, and Aqua. There's a clip, actually, where Mongrel dances on Aqua after ending him in one of these end games, the most recent one. So there is heat between them. And these guys play the highest mid-ground level tarp, so they're always right underneath the top trio in every game. So if they do make it to grand finals based off their heat and they're against each other, they're the only trio I think that can survive the rainfall of miniguns, explosives, and then still fight for height on top and then come through with a clutch. I think Stompy, Chicken, and Aqua are the only people that can actually knock them down and have the closest chance to do that and accomplish the mission.
I'm going to have to challenge you on that one. I really think Crew, Chapix, and Beehive have a run for this. Even in the solo Cash Cup division, Aqua and Chapix have been doing so well. So not only as individual players, but as a trio, they're still in the running. Beehive specifically has been having a little bit of run in with issues during his qualifier formats, but they've still been putting up good runnings. So I personally think that there are still other contenders to look out for.
So we talk about the Stompy, Shinken, and Aqua duo. They were one of the teams who took away the first place going on there. And then on top of that, we had the Gambit duo who was able to get, or the Gambit duo plus Dementos, who was able to steal away one of the first places. Those are 2 teams who I think could challenge. But I want to give a shout out to the Tohaj, Caxi, and Bella EU team. They get almost no screen time, no noticeability. They've been consistently in the qualification. I think it was either 3 or 4 times in the top 8 in Europe. They're number 2 or number 3 overall in FNCS points just in the series, and they play so absurdly disciplined for the late game, and they're just veteran shooter players that, again, I think once you get into this heat structure, like this is going to be so much harder in Europe in particular, where those first rounds of heats and the second round of heats before the grand finals are going to be ridiculously competitive. These guys have the discipline where regardless of who is in their heat, they're playing for placement, finding picks late, and they do it incredibly well. So take a look at them, take a look at their rotations, because they're my dark horse to be challenging up towards there, but we all know it's Mitro, Mongo, Benji, and everyone else trying to catch them.
Yeah, I mean, even at their, I guess, like, worst, you could say, like, MMB always, like, at minimum, they've come in second, right?
It took, so in the rounds where they got second, they literally threw their last 4 games into, I've said it a number of times, but if you can take 4 games and play horribly and get 4 to 8 points max across 4 games, and you still barely get edged out for second, and every other time that hasn't happened, you're winning by 30 to 40 points, like, they're that good. I mean, go look at the earnings. There's a reason they're like 6 times higher than everyone else.
All right, now let's go ahead and talk about Brazil. That was the predictions I made of the Red Trio, Techno Viking, Snow, and Avalar. Now, guys, I know what you're thinking, but these guys are very good. Every single week between weeks 1 and 4, they had amazing showings, and they were always top 10. Now, in week 5, they didn't have the best showing. They did come in 25th place. It was a little bit rough for them, but I know this trio is very good. We've seen them as far back as Summer Skirmish, right? And I know these guys have also tried to qualify for World Cup. Techno Viking was paired with someone else, and he almost just barely missed qualification. Snow and Avalar also were just 2 or 3 placements from placing for World Cup. So these guys do have that potential to make it out of Brazil. Now, Brazil's a pretty crazy region. Everyone is very good. There is no one kind of leading the pack. We do see people like Drekons and Nyx, for example, just to name 2, even Blackouts, to name 3. But for me, I think this trio has the potential. They can break through that ceiling. They have the pieces. They just kind of have to put it all together.
Yeah, so you talk about how there being a number of different teams. The Mastier Dracons Blackouts team were able to take first place one of the weeks. I also think you can't count out King, Toxic, and Sown, able to have a great performance. And then just this past weekend, you had Clipnode and Nothing No Name and their partner able to pop off, take first place. So any single one of these teams, can't forget about Fa and History as well. So there's a number of all these competitive veterans who we've seen before down in Brazil. And again, we talk about kind of that 3-heat structure there where you're going to have that first round, second round, then grand finals. I'm really interested to see what goes on and who's able to kind of get their game plan rolling, because depending on who's in your match and whether you kind of get the first number of elims or you get knocked out, that can really affect some of these guys' game plans. And some of these are a lot younger and very aggressive players. So all of a sudden, if you're not able to queue up for a match right away, or you get knocked and then you're sitting there forced to wait for the next 30 minutes, I think it could play on them a little bit.
And yeah, just to add a little fuel to your fire, Zeke, I think Avalar, Snow, and Techno Viking had a phenomenal week 4 performance, showing that with a close to 40-point lead over their region in the finals, that they can have what it takes to really space that gap and take a big lead over the competition.
All right, let's talk about NA East. Shy, you had some predictions.
Yeah, because we all know Booga, Clarity, Stretch at the top. Bucky, Animal, Aspect, insane, consistent players. We have really good trios there, but the wildcard trio that always still performs, even consistently, Clicks, Crimson, Spades. I think these guys will have what it takes to make some nasty plays and come out on top. Not only that, a little bit of predictions as well, just based on how they placed. Week 1, when everyone was on the same playing field, going blind into the format, into the pressure, they came out on top in the region. So I think going back again blindly against the top of the competition, against fresh mindsets, against all the reviewing done, they're going to have an edge once again, being able to adapt and pick up everything faster than everyone else for heats and the grand finals. They're going to be absolutely on top.
Yeah, and I agree, Shyo. Just watching from Clix' gameplay specifically, he's had a hard time finding a trio where he fits in, but I think Crimson Spades, what work really well is their technical skill to just react, really play off of the heels of Clix. We all know Clix to be an extremely aggressive, straight shooter, and when he makes up his mind, he just goes for it, and he performs because he's that good. He can lead the pack mechanically, and his team can keep up, and that's what I think really makes this trio as a pack stand out, is because they can keep up with the speed of Clix.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think they're a trio to keep an eye on, and their performances have showed it when they're able to have an upside, in the fact that they've all been boot camping and playing together and focusing on that. Like, that is so much, it helps you build that level of teamwork. But I think another team who is going to be focusing on building their teamwork up and has the potential to elevate their game plan even farther is the brand new duo or trio of Fiber, Canada, and Tifu. So we able
to Adenak.
Stop it. But we saw them able to push up into the qualifying run there, particularly when a lot of adversity and things were going against them. And if you actually go back and look at the VODs, Tifu didn't necessarily have the best individual day, and Fiber and Canada were playing very well. And I think their upside in the glass ceiling in terms of where they're able to go is only going to go up. And again, we talk about teams who get stronger as you get into less of the open and more of the closed format, and you're playing against what is effectively custom and competitive scrims, and the top players who are always there. These guys live for this environment. That's all they play in all the time. That's all Tfue plays. That's 98% of his game time. So I think once you get in there, that trio gets that much stronger. And not to say expect them at the top, but expect them to be better than they were in the opening, which potentially makes them scary.
Yep, I just hope they find their X factor, because you have the lightness of the speed of Clicks. You have the weird randomness screen movements that are so fast of Booga. I just hope they get their own little clutch moments in there and their own defined identity, because it is a tough stacked competition coming up this weekend.
And finally, NA West. Monster, you had some predictions for this region.
Yes, we all know to look out for Scented, Edgy, and Rex, who have been killing the competition so far. Even in the solo Cash Cup, we had Edgy and Scented in week 4 come out at the top. We're talking top 3 here with Solo Juicy there, and they had a tiebreaker on just win. So as individual players, they're crushing the solo Cash Cups. As a trio, they're dominating the scene, and I think for the West, they are taking the lead. My predictions to overswing them was Falconer, Vinny, and Arkram. I think they can also give a running for their money, but man, with how much of a, I guess, a skill disparity that there's going on here, they're just crushing it. They're way ahead of the West right now.
I think they're way ahead. I mean, they talk about it all the time. It's now their 8th tournament win when they've been in there. They love to flex that. I think another thing to look at is who else is challenging. The Ty Tanks, Tomas, and Wavy Jacob, a trio. Wavy has the ability to pop off, was one of those controller players able to hit his shots. And when they do get rolling, they can challenge there, but it's definitely scented Edgy and Rex's to lose.
All right, well, that's it. Now you know our thoughts heading into tomorrow's finals. We can't wait to see how things shake out for every single region. And of course, we're going to be crowning first ever season champions. Sundown, ShyoWager, MonsterDFace, thank you guys so much for hanging out. Everyone else that's competing, best of luck this weekend. If you're watching, don't forget, Fortnite.com/watch. You can check all the action there and, of course, in client. Till next time, Fortnite fam, we'll see you guys on the battle bus.
Beep, beep.
Beep, beep.
Bebop.